And you're going to have little moments in your research and your clinical practice and your educational curricula where you're going to feel like, why am I bother doing this? This is never going to work. I'm never going to make it. And then you just kind of have that little moment of meltdown, pick yourself back up. And here we are, literally almost 2 years to the day, and all this has happened. Welcome back to the Faculty Factory podcast. I'm Kim Skarupski, and on today's episode, I'm so pleased and so proud to introduce you to the Faculty Factory website and podcast wonderful producer, Mr. Casey Callanan. Casey, how are you?
I'm great, Kim. First of all, congratulations on episode 100.
100? Really?
You've done at least 100 of these. How does that feel, first of all?
It's hard to believe that what started as a conversation between Casey Callanan and Kim Skarupski in downtown Merritt Athletic Club, the DAC, in Baltimore, Maryland, over watching the Chicago Bears football game on a Sunday afternoon when we were the only two losers in the gym working out, and then discovering that we were both from the same far west suburbs of Chicago and had moved there, resulted in this. Back in 2013 that we met, resulted in this amazing collaboration with you. I really am shocked.
Yeah, well, first of all, the Bears did lose that game, so that was not shocking.
How do you remember that?
Because they've lost a lot of them over the years. But first of all, Kim, congratulations. Like we've said, the podcast has been downloaded or viewed on YouTube over 20,000 times at this point, and it's in roughly 60 countries as well. We know from looking at the metrics. What do you have to say to all these people that have taken the time to listen to your wisdom and the knowledge that you've been able to uncover from all these interviews?
I'm sure no one has learned anything from me, and there's been no wisdom on my end, but I know that people have been so impressed with the community of faculty affairs and faculty development professionals around North America who have dedicated their lives to serving faculty. That's where the wisdom is. And that, if you remember, was the impetus for this whole project. Well, it started back with the WAGs that you and I met for lunch or a dinner one night and said I had this idea of the WAGs, the Writing Accountability Groups, and you talked me into getting the book together and the website. But then even that kind of was rooted in my involvement with the Association of American Medical Colleges Group on Faculty Affairs, my sensing that this Group on Faculty Affairs annual professional development conference wasn't enough. It didn't seem to provide enough opportunity for us to build community because we're all such busy professionals, and anybody knows whenever you go to a conference, you're constantly running around and trying to catch as many sessions as you can. And so it's constant busyness. And while we do a good job of building in some networking and breakfast times and social hours, it's felt to me like there was so much that we all wanted and needed. And yet there really wasn't a platform to share that kind of just conversation in a low key way. So you're the one who convinced me that we needed to come up with a novel way of disseminating information and sharing and building. And so this whole facultyfactory.org website and podcast, was absolutely would not have been here because of you. So I guess of one lesson I want to impart to folks out there is you never know where you're going to meet your collaborators. And obviously it could be in a gym with a person who is a professional communication person at the American Urological Association and just finishing a master's in business administration. You never know when you will get together with people and spark really great ideas. So thank you, Casey, and thank everybody listening for joining in and contributing and participating and sharing all the wisdom and growing this community.
What are some of the top takeaways or recurring themes you can gather from all of these 100 discussions that you've been a part of? Is there anything, any pattern recognition that you're seeing or any recurring themes you want to share?
The themes that we see in faculty affairs and faculty development are the ones that have been kind of common threads, and those revolve around promotion and mentoring and communication and leadership and equity and inclusion, basic career development, negotiating. I guess it all comes down to those, what somebody pointed out to me recently, these soft skills, if you will, and I'm doing the little quotation marks with my fingers. These soft skills that many of us don't learn in graduate school. We're so steeped in learning about our science and how to do research and how to grow our, be a clinician and learn our surgical skills or our clinical practices, that we don't learn about things like how to be a good mentee or be a mentor, or how does one ascend the career laddership in academic medicine? Or how do you negotiate positions and resources and network? Those kind of things. None of us took a class in that stuff. I guess people assume that you just learn by osmosis. You just kind of we're like sponges, so we see how people do things. But that's kind of, I think, a mistake. And that's how the group on faculty affairs evolved, out of the recognition of deans throughout the schools of medicine and academic medicine, recognizing that we can't make these assumptions. And especially as science and medicine and education has changed and all the new pressures, and let's add a global pandemic on top of all the usual pressures of increased competition for research funding and generating revenue through clinical practices and the way medicine is set up and education and online learning, all the complexities. You can't assume that faculty members will just pick up organically how to, again, fill in the blank, be a leader, build teams, communicate with your subordinates, the people on your team, to negotiate, to learn about conflict and mediation just organically. It's not going to happen. So that's hence the real need for the science of faculty affairs and the science of faculty development. So all my colleagues out there around the world who get this and understand this, and again, have a heart for serving faculty and helping faculty meet and exceed all their expectations, it lies in, the work we do. So those are, I guess, the common themes are the standard ones that I guess I mentioned. I won't repeat myself.
Kim, let's talk about the technical side of this. I want to get into that because you are a self-proclaimed Luddite, I believe. You are not technology and interfacing with technology. You have told me many times is not something that you consider your strong suit. So since you've been doing this 100 episodes now, recording remote podcasts and interfacing with the different softwares that you need to make sure this is a seamless recording process. Have you conquered some of these fears and stresses that you've had with technology?
Okay. So I could be glib and say no, because and everybody who knows me knows that technology, I feel like every IT person at Hopkins, that there's an inside joke that I have some kind of metal plate in my head that interferes with all technology. And the ongoing joke, kid you not, among the IT crew and the staff in my office is the common refrain when anybody ever works with me or tries to remote into my computer to fix things is always, "That's interesting. And I've never seen that before." Over and over and over. "That's interesting. I've never seen that before." And I say, yes, welcome to my world. It's only me where I have the craziness of technology. So to be silly and obnoxious, no, it's not changed, because every time I have a podcast on my calendar, I literally will feel myself start to shake and tremble. I do get so nervous. That said, when I get out of my head and step back and look at all these, over 100 and now recording, a bunch of new ones for the next season, I do kind of feel pretty proud of myself that I've figured it out. And I will also acknowledge to everybody out there The only way I figured it out was because I had Casey Callanan, who wrote me this, dummy proof step by step with screenshots and big arrows telling me, press this, do that, make sure this is on Voicemeeter, Audacity, and the Skype, and making sure all these things work. You're the one who wrote me the manual to figure out how to do this. So again, a little plug for, we need a team of people around us who have the skills that we don't have. And then guess what? We're all better for it. So it's because of you that I have the confidence, if you want to call it confidence, on any given day to do this.
Well, I appreciate those kind words, but painful transition here to kind of, what's the word I'm looking for?
Are you hearkening back to our first episode with Charlie Urban?
Well, I don't want to contradict every single word you just said about me, but
no, come on, it's truth-telling time. Charlie Urban, I hope, at the University of Vermont, I hope you're listening to this. Take it away, Casey. Let's talk about that first session, the very first ever Faculty Factory podcast with Dr. Charlie Urban. Go ahead, Casey. Tell everybody.
That's right. If you go to facultyfactory.org/podcast and you go to the very bottom of the page and you can see our library, all 100 episodes are up there. The first ever interview would look like it's an interview with Daniel Shapiro, brilliant guy from Penn State College of Medicine, Hershey. But technically, the first ever Faculty Factory interview was not with Dr. Daniel Shapiro. It was actually with Dr. Charlie Urban, which when it was published, it ended up being the fourth episode. But that's because the first ever episode of the Faculty Factory podcast is technically a lost episode. The Dr. Urban episode that got published was a 1-hour complete retake.
Yes.
And that was because in our celebratory mood of recording the first episode, I was with you. This was 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago.
No, it's 2 years ago. December 13th, 2018. I'm looking at my notebook here with all my notes. And I remember you sitting here and we're like, woohoo! And I was jumping up and down, dancing around down here in my basement, and you were pounding around the keyboard, and then take it away.
Yeah, and then what had happened was What had happened Well, it's a mistake I have never made again, so I do want to give myself credit for learning from my mistakes. But I had thought that when I saw the saved podcast on your desktop that we were good to go. That MP3 file looked saved up and I was happy. I was jubilant. All right, let's close out everything and go, live to see another day. This is awesome. One down, 1 hour under the belt. Charlie with his time he was so gracious with his time. You nailed it. You were nervous. It was your first time doing this interview. And it was like everything was perfect. We had the file saved. What I failed to do was after the file was on your desktop, I didn't listen to it before we closed out the project, which I should have done. I assumed it was all there. However, whatever technology on that day was feeling a certain type of way. And what ended up happening was only about 2 minutes of the 1 hour interview was actually saved. Yeah. And that meant we lost pretty much the whole thing. And my heart sunk. Your heart sunk, and we just got lucky. I got lucky. We all got lucky because Dr. Urban was so gracious. He laughed, and he still gives us a hard time about it to this day, rightfully so, and it was 100% my fault, but he was so gracious with his time, and 2 weeks later, we had him back on the phone, and the interview was just as good, if not better, than the first one that was lost.
So I think there's so many, listening to you tell the story, it brings it back, but it's also, it brings me to reminds me of important lessons in life. Okay, nobody died on the table. Something didn't burn down. People didn't lose a life, lose a job, and all the horrible things, that happened that we are all too acutely aware of. But it was a blow. And the reminder, the lesson to me, and many lessons here, is that we're going to have setbacks. And you're going to have little moments in your research and your clinical practice and your educational curricula where you're going to feel like, why am I bother doing this? This is never going to work. All the doom and gloom, everything I do messes up. I'm never going to make it. And then you just kind of have that little moment of meltdown. I remember you down here for like 20 minutes, half an hour, like trying everything. I went upstairs, made a cup of tea, and I'm like, you got it, you're fine. And then when we realized, no, we don't got it. Okay. Like you said, we pick yourself back up. And here we are, literally almost 2 years to the day, and all this has happened. So a lesson there is, yeah, sometimes in the moment, you have to allow the little bit of a meltdown. I call it my little toddler temper tantrum, which I've had like during the quarantine and the COVID year, many moments of little temper tantruming. But then you say, okay, got that out, deep breath, move on. And like you said, people are more forgiving and they're kinder than you think they would be, because like some of the horrors, nightmares in my head of him going, I can't believe you did this. How stupid are you? My time is valuable. I'm not going to do it again. If you can't get your stuff together, what makes you think? I mean, that would be like the worst case scenario. But of course, Charlie Urban, the Dean for Faculty Affairs at UVM, great guy, would never say that. But, we tend to like catastrophize. But so one important lesson there is calm down, deep breath. This too shall pass. And wonderful things can sometimes happen from what seem to be disasters, right? Look at the COVID. I mean, we've got some silver linings that have obviously come out of all that. So
yes, well said. 100 episodes later, we haven't made the same mistake twice, so that's got to be a good sign.
Right. And especially, I want to make a note to you, right? In all these 2 years of my recording now, over 125, I have never even done that myself. That is the biggest miracle. I just realized. I can't believe that I haven't screwed something up, or I uploaded it to the drive and you're like, Kim, it's not there. Or I can't believe you recorded a whole hour of nothing. So I can't believe I haven't messed up. So I guess you scared the pants out of me so well that maybe that's why I'm so uber conscious of everything, because I'm like, that first episode, I'm going to delete everything.
No, we definitely learned from the mistake, and foolproof kind of SOPs and processes in place, and
that's right.
And that really helps. Systems really help. Kim, you mentioned the pandemic. As we become a digital first society, do you think this podcast can help the community stay connected? As we know, we're still in-person meetings have still not come back.
Well, yeah, you're right, Casey. You're in a different generation, and you get this, and you're the one who like taught me all about this. And especially if folks are a little bit still squirrely about the whole thing, Casey Callanan has written at least 2 books, actually 3 books now, but the How to Podcast When You Aren't Tech Savvy, which I think was written for me. Yeah. So back to the pandemic and this kind of technology. I don't know what's going to be next down the line. And, you've transitioned these to YouTube. And there are different buckets and categories. And, we're working on the book to compile all these episodes. So what you and I have had so many conversations over the years is we have to be nimble. We have to be creative. My big thing is always trying to meet faculty where they are. So I think it's important for diversity. And I'm in these kinds of problem solving times and trying to reach faculty diversity. I mean, in this instance, not only of the typical diversity and ethnicity and background and gender and religion and politics and geography and how all the many facets of diversity, but also diversity in age, because I think, as I'm approaching age 60 in couple years, 4 or 5 years, I'm just not into the youth culture. It's important that we have the diversity of people who we have to understand, where are they getting their information? Are they on Instagram? Are they on Twitter? What's going to be the next thing they are on or that they look to as their sources of information, and what's going to be efficient and what is going to help them in their careers and not hinder them. I mean, email was a thing, and now it's emails getting people like delete emails. So, when you say, is this important now? Yeah, it's this kind of this medium, and whatever's going to happen in the future. We've seen an uptick, and I know a lot of my colleagues have, back in the olden days when human beings got together in rooms, when we had hospitality, we'd have food, the restrooms were around the corner, we sat next to each other, we'd have breakout rooms, and the breakout rooms or groups where literally people stand up and go stand in a circle in the corner of the room. And we'd have our pretty good, up to half or a little bit more of attendance. Everybody's noticing that on the Zoom formats, attendance is a lot more. I mean, huge. Why? Because of the convenience of it. Now, we can talk about Zoom fatigue. It's a different thing where at some point we're like, I don't want another Zoom ever. But the idea that you can just click a button and be in a room with people versus, grabbing your purse, grabbing your coat, running down the street or the block or getting on a bus or getting in your car, going somewhere. The efficiency is certainly something that, and patients have seen this as well with telehealth and telemedicine. And we're not going to get rid of that. So you're right in that we have to make sure we are meeting faculty where they are, and that is efficiencies, technology, what will work for them in what kind of sizable, digestible chunks on their time in the manner that works for them, in their learning style, their personality style, and what they need. And that kind of gets me to what Charlie Irvin and I actually presented in Chicago the year you were there, Casey, and you met a lot of our colleagues at the Chicago Professional Development Conference where we talked about precision faculty development. And I still am not going to give that concept up based around precision medicine, precision education, not precision faculty development. Where are folks? Where can we meet them? What do we do? But I don't see anything else right now that's going to better than this. I think it's working, at least. I think it's working.
Well, I was at that meeting, and that was the last in-person meeting that the GFA has had. So I was very fortunate to be there. It's crazy how different the world was no more than 18 months ago or so. As we now transition to the end of this episode, I just wanted to get your feedback on if someone was interested in being a guest on the Faculty Factory podcast, and maybe they do have Zoom fatigue and they don't want to get on another Zoom call. What's the process like for them getting on the podcast with you? Is it as simple as dialing a cell phone?
Yeah. So that's a good question. I'm glad you asked that, Casey, because I still, when I send these reminders out on the GFA listserv and periodically send little emails around Hopkins reminding faculty to take advantage of these little snippet sound bites on the Faculty Factory podcast, and then I invite people, I still get emails saying, oh, I'd love to do it, but I really can't travel to Baltimore to do it. Or they'll say, where do we record it? You always talk about you're in your basement. I mean, do I come to your house? And I'm like, no. It's easier than that. There's no travel involved. It's literally you call me on a phone. You could be sitting in a closet on your cell phone and talking to me. It doesn't matter. So yeah, it's
funny you should say that. I'm currently sitting in a closet.
No, you are not. So exactly, all you have to do, and I know everybody listening out there, you've got something to share. Coming up soon, next in 2021, the calendar year 2021, we're debuting a new season that I thought about calling the Triple H, the Habits and Hacks from Hopkins, just as a way of inviting faculty members to share their routines, their efficiencies, their practices, their hacks that make them successful. And so I've already interviewed a bunch of folks, and it's kind of if you're sitting there listening thinking, well, yeah, you extroverts, you just talk to think and you just yammer away, especially Kim, and she never shuts up. That's easy for you to do that. But what about we, the introverts here who are a little bit maybe more shy and don't feel comfortable doing this? I tell you, I've interviewed maybe 10 in the past couple of weeks, and they say, no, I'm really introverted. Well, I hope those of you who are listening understand that this is not like an NPR interview when we know the Faculty Factory. The whole idea was this to be very informal, conversation, chatty, just like if I'm on the phone with a friend and we're talking. And I believe that we have set up that kind of a culture, that kind of a tone, that they're not scripted. None of these interviews has ever been scripted. People call in, hey, Kim, how you doing? I'm like, oh, you ready to go? Let me tell you, this is going to work. It's not live. I'm recording it. If I say something stupid, just tell me, and Casey Callanan going to edit it out. But it's very chill, very relaxed. And I've had many, many faculty members tell me when I hit the pause and stop recording and start downloading, they'll be like, wow, the first couple minutes I was kind of nervous. Could you tell? And I'm like, no. And they're like, but then it was just so comfortable. I was really relaxed, and it just felt really natural. And I actually forgot that we were recording. And so I just want to reassure and hopefully inspire some people listening that I know you are sitting on a wealth of information out there. You're listening to me and you have some really cool ideas. You have some great things you do, some little things you've discovered or you've observed in somebody else and you want to share it. Please don't keep good news a secret. Good news is meant to be shared. Share the good news. Don't keep things a secret. So please go to the website, facultyfactory.org. Casey, what's the email address for the Faculty Factory?
facultyfactorykim@gmail.com.
I forgot about that email address. See, that's how good Casey is because he takes care of all that, the production business. But yeah, you can find me at email me at Hopkins, kskarupski@jh.edu, kskarupski@jh.edu. How do you spell Skarupski? Just how it sounds. Skarupski, kskarupski@jh. But yeah, thanks, Casey. I think it's super easy and people just have to give me a call. Don't be shy.
Awesome. Any other final thoughts, Kim?
Yeah, just that I'm eternally grateful to you, Casey. You just keep encouraging me. And no matter when I feel, like exhausted and tired and frustrated by the whole, all the complicated processes of getting us organized and getting the people booked and rebooked and rescheduled and technology, you always encourage me and motivate me. So I really appreciate you, Casey. And I appreciate all my friends out there in the GFA land and all the faculty members over the years who have taken their time to be brave and courageous and share willingly without pay. They're all doing this voluntarily. So thank you to everybody for doing our good work, and let's continue to share the news and build our community.
Sounds good, Kim. And here's to 100 more episodes.
Oh my.
And also, on behalf of the entire Faculty Factory audience, I would like to congratulate Kim on her promotion to full professor at Johns Hopkins. I wanted to put that in there because we know that you would never say that. You're a very humble person, and I do want to say a congratulations and make sure that it does officially get out there because you do give a lot back to this whole community, and it was very, very great news. Associate Dean for Faculty Development on her promotion to professor. I'm reading the tweet right now. Congratulations, Dr. Skarupski. That is amazing.
You're so, so kind. You snuck that in there. All right, folks. Thanks, everybody. See you back in the Faculty Factory podcast. Be well. Thanks for tuning in to Faculty Factory Podcast. The mission of the Faculty Factory is to build and support a community of leaders in faculty development who share tools, resources, wisdom, and encouragement in service to our faculty members, schools, and institutions. We encourage you to go to facultyfactory.org to find out more. Get in touch with me, ask me any questions. Maybe you want to be interviewed on the podcast. Thanks for tuning in to Faculty Factory Podcast. We'll see you next time. The Faculty Factory podcast and website is sponsored by the Johns Hopkins University School of Medicine Office of Faculty. For more information, visit facultyfactory.org.